many times have we said on the show, how many times have we talked about, and we recognize elections have consequences. We talk about it all the time. If you woke up to your paper Thursday morning and some comments Friday morning, the consequences of this last election is that Satellite Beach lost its only remaining conservative council member. We are fortunate that he sits here with us this morning, but let's talk about what led to that for a minute, and that was when Lloyd's election went the way it did, and you had the old guard elected in full force into Satellite Beach. They immediately, in the person of Ms. Dogpoop, came up with a proposal to change operation of City Council so that they could not go outside of the city and its own wealth of knowledge to look for information about things that they're talking about and dealing with. So if you go to the Attorney General, you go to someone else in the state government to say, hey, we're looking for a problem here, that would be a no-no in the Satellite Beach City Council. You have to go with the information the city manager tells you. Then she also immediately moved to get rid of the interim city manager and put the current police chief in as city manager. And then they wanted to put new rules in where if you are a business person and you're traveling, you can no longer Skype into meetings, as Greg Billman has done for 10 times, whatever, yeah, and successfully so. So they immediately, instead of just being happy with the 4-1 advantage, now they want to be able to eliminate that voice by saying, you're going to miss meetings, you're gone. Well, they tweaked that a little bit, but it was very transparent, very plain. What they wanted to do was say, we're in charge, we're going to do with our town what we want to do. Consequences are, they can have the town. There comes a point, and Greg, let's talk a little bit, and we're going to do this on the radio when we get back, but let's talk a little bit about what went into your decision, and why all of a sudden, a guy who's done the right thing, fought so well, now all of a sudden, there's no fight left.
Yeah, well, there's no fight left because, well, let me back up. Not only those things were brought up right out of the chute. In fact, before they were even sworn in as council members, those changes had been put into the agenda. For the first meeting that they were going to have as council members, right after they got sworn in, we were already going to be talking about these items. So they put them in as soon as they were elected, these procedural changes we're talking about. Say again?
It's illegal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself is illegal, but no one wants to talk about that. The other thing that they did was they were going to completely, and they're going to completely tear down the CRA rebuild that we did. Given all of that malfeasance that was going on with the CRA, we changed the CRA. We stood down the advisory council that had put forth such inputs as let's claim eminent domain to take away property from property owners so that the citizens can have a view. Those sorts of issues, those sorts of decisions we didn't think were viable, so we stood down the advisory council and we added citizens, at-large citizens, to the board itself. Because the CRA board, I don't know if you guys understand this, but in Satellite Beach, in the old days, the CRA board was nothing but the council. So they would gavel themselves out as a council and gavel themselves in as a CRA board and start making decisions as CRA members that they weren't allowed to by law make as council members. To wit, as a council member, if you want to indebt the citizens of the city, you have to go to a referendum and have the citizens vote. As CRA members, you can indebt the citizens all you want just by going after loans and voting just as a simple majority. So that's what they would do. They would gavel themselves out as council, gavel themselves in as CRA, and start indebting the citizens to the tune of $6.3 million. What we did to keep that from happening is we put citizens on the CRA board with the council, so that there could be some backstop there, to say, whoa, and they're going to change that. That's part of this process that they're going to be changing. Okay, so fast forward to Thursday or Wednesday night. Wednesday night we get in there, and the first thing out of the chute they're going to talk about is censoring or putting into the procedure that any council member who goes outside of the city to ask for legal guidance or expert opinion will be censored by the rest of council. So we'll tell you what to think, and no free thinking allowed here. My point my counter to that was, folks, what would have happened if a council member, back when the CRA money was being spent the way it was being spent, would have gone out to the JLAC or to the Attorney General and said, hey, are we doing this right? This just doesn't seem right to me. We would have saved the city the embarrassment that came when a citizen had to figure that out. Because that was the basis upon which Ms. Gott put in this change, that she wanted to make sure that the city wasn't embarrassed by council members going outside the city to ask for guidance.